dive into some of this audio. Earlier today, we already played some Clayton Adams. We'll get into some of that a little bit later on, the new offensive coordinator. I wanted to play some of these cuts, though, from their new defensive line coach, Aaron Whitecotton. And he was one of the more, I thought, interesting people we talked to yesterday in terms of the way that he was a little more. Yesterday, you would get some guys who would say, hey, what are you planning on doing with this guy? Or what do you think of this here or there? And they go, it's so early. We're still figuring things out. I can't even really commit to any scheme thoughts right now. I can't really answer anything like that right now. Aaron Whitecotton was willing to just kind of go into some detail about some of the different things that he thought and some of the different philosophies that he had. So I thought some of this was pretty good. This is cut 23 here. This is Aaron Whitecotton talking about his vision for Micah, which should make RJ Choppy pretty happy.
Mike is one of the best pass rushers in the NFL, premier player, and my vision for him is a sacked quarterback. That's my vision for him. So that will be our focus and our goal for him to do what it takes to help the team win, and at the same time pressure the quarterback on a consistent basis. And he's really done that since he's been here and in the NFL at a very high level, and I expect to see the same.
And we heard some similar stuff from Eberflus yesterday. It doesn't sound like there's going to be much disguising with Micah. Micah's just going to rush.
Hell yeah. I think, people get wrapped up in sack numbers. Fans especially get wrapped up in sack numbers. Pressure is just as important.
Yeah.
You pressure the quarterback, you get them off their timing, you get them, not being able to plant their front foot, you get weak throws, you get turnovers in the secondary. Pressure is, if you were to tell me I was getting 5 sacks in a game, but that was the only pressure I was getting, or I was getting 0 sacks and 10 pressures, you might not go that far, but you're getting close to being the same. I might take the 10 pressures, no sacks.
I mean, Sean keeps saying that I keep becoming more and more like Dan Orlovsky, that we're morphing into the same person. You're morphing into Michael Lombardi more and more every day, because that has been Michael Lombardi's contention for a long time is screw sacks. I want pressure. I want to force turnovers. I want to force, reckless decisions from the other team. A sack, especially in today's NFL, sacking somebody on first down gives you 2nd and 18, and today's NFL players can pick up that first down.
Absolutely.
So yeah, you guys are the same.
Look, I mean, Michael has fair points. He also, I think he's just a gatekeeper. That's my issue with him.
He also knows who John Connolly is, the former governor of Texas.
Yeah, I know who John Connolly is. I know who Governor Connolly is. Okay, there's a difference.
Yeah, there you go.
I know John.
This is cut 24. This was a good question. They were right after he talked about Micah. Babe was joking with him a little bit, was that a just demand for you before you take this job? Was Micah's got to be on the defensive line? So they're joking around about it. But Babe had asked him. He said, how are you supposed to kind of game plan and spend this time getting your scheme together when you don't know which of your defensive linemen are even coming back?
We always have all these conversations about what the team looks like with this guy, with that guy. I trust in the Jones family and Mr. McClay to do that and get the right people on the boat. The biggest thing that we go through right now is we give them a vision for what we're looking for. Give them, here are the traits that we love, here are the things that are important to us, and then we count on them to do a great job. And they have drafting and free agency here of getting those type of, and just having that open communication, so we're all on the same page about what we're looking for and what we want. That's the biggest thing, and it's been awesome.
Where's this guy from?
Where did he coach originally?
No, where's he from? Because I'm hearing
He sounds like Carter Freeman.
I'm hearing some guy. No, I'm hearing some Louisiana with.
Oh, that's a good point.
I detected a Persian accent.
I'm hearing a guy. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to look. He was so he's been around.
Guarantee it's somewhere in the South.
Certainly, I'm gonna have to look it up here, but I'll find out where he's from. But surely it's gonna have to be. We'll see how good your accent game is. Okay. But to mention that he talks about. When he specifies, he says, meeting with the Joneses and Will McClay and giving them parameters. That's a big part of what Will McClay likes to do whenever they get a new coach in here. And the issue is usually they're swapping out, because they're so stable with which coaches they have here, they're swapping out one guy or 2 coaches or something like that. Swapping out an entire coaching staff now means that Will McClay's got to set up time for, I need each of these coaches to meet with everybody in the personnel department and share with them, here are my parameters. And so it's a ton of work. But the fact that Aaron Whitecotton is saying, hey, right now we're focusing a lot on giving them the things they need to go for a shopping list, sounds like the Cowboys are probably thinking we might be losing some depth this offseason and we might need to replenish it and we need to know what they want.
Very disappointed in you, Sean. You were a You said Louisiana, right?
Well, that's what it sounds like. My buddy from Louisiana.
Okay, I get you. Because you were a NASCAR guy.
Yeah, well, not by choice.
You were a NASCAR guy, and there is a very distinct
North Carolina?
Charlotte accent in the NASCAR world.
You know what? I don't know if that's that far off. You know, it was. If I said it's a NASCAR accent, there you go.
You could have
that could be a little draw in there. There's a draw.
I mean, it's basically the South. I mean, it literally has North in the name, but you were kind of. I mean, I consider North Carolina the South, so it counts.
It's
to
not
me.
I consider it. It is.
It is. All right. Next clip here. He talks about we're communicating what we want, and this was some of the stuff that I shared yesterday that seemed to get people intrigued about what they want to do. Asked Aaron Whitecotton, okay, well then, what are you looking for in defensive linemen?
You know, we need explosive athletes. We need guys that are change the line of scrimmage, and they're great versus the run, and they also affect the passer. So those are the biggest things that we look for in those, just these explosive athletes that play on the other side of the line of scrimmage.
You talk about effort being important for what you want to do. Is effort something you think you can coach out of people, or does that need to be a trait they already have?
I think there's a combination. You can always improve. But we can't bend on playing hard, and it's a consistent conversation from the first week in training camp until the week of the Super Bowl. Run to the ball, and I'm not talking about just like, pretend like you're running to the ball, like sprint to the ball every time till your lungs are on fire. Go back and do it again. And so I feel like there's a little bit of both. Like there's some people who just don't have it in them, and maybe they're just not right for us. But I think that's something that we can consistently work on. It will always be emphasized. I can promise you that.
And that has been, I guess it shouldn't be surprising. Schottenheimer says, culture. That's the biggest thing. That's the top line item for us. That's what we want to do. So I guess it shouldn't be surprising that yesterday, the most common theme you got out of these coaches was that issue. Effort, motor, physicality. Like, that was like, this is the top item we feel like we're having to drill into people right now.
So when I start off watching this, especially was the case growing up in Maryland, watching those Ravens defenses, the first week of the season, it always feels like teams, there's 7 guys at the ball. There's 8 guys at the ball. Everyone's running to the football. But can that take place, and is that taking place in week 5? Is it taking place in week 10? Is it taking place in week 15? Those Ravens teams, it always seemed like it took place. And one of these coaches had the comment yesterday. I loved it. And look, I feel like RJ chopped with a semi-eye roll here. All these guys are going to pretty much say the same thing. It doesn't matter who it is, where they come from, who they're coaching, where they're coaching. They're all talking about hustle and relentlessness and all that stuff that we sometimes fall in love with during an off season, especially with new guys. But one of these coaches said, you're going to be judged by how close to the football you are at the end of the play. Yep. And I was like, oh, that's a generic thought, but I hadn't seen it like specified like that. I love that.
It's Bobby Carpenter's greatest trait. He never actually made the play, but he was always standing around the pile.
No, he was with Shan vacationing in Mexico alongside Tony Romo before a playoff game. Thanks, Bobby. That was actually the offensive line coach Connor Riley who mentioned that. And that quote you mentioned, this was the exact one. And this is because you're right. It sounds generic. It sounds general. But Connor Riley went a step forward, and he didn't just say, this is what we want. He's flat out saying, your value to this football team is going to be judged completely by it. The quote was, the measurement of value to this football team is going to be how close you are to the football when the play is dead. Because he said that is everything in terms of that's in your control. You giving effort and you being around is what's in your control. So if you're not controlling the things that you can control, we've got an issue.
And that's an offensive assistant saying about his players, not a defensive. You're like, no, 999 times out of 1,000, that's a defensive coach saying you're going to be judged with how close to the football you are, not an offensive line coach.
Yeah, and that's exactly the type of mentality that I think clearly, based on hearing all the assistants talk yesterday, that's what Schottenheimer drilled into them is, hey, this is what I want. This is what you guys need to coach up, which is a cousin or a function of a team that has strong culture and strong makeup. And that's what Schottenheimer clearly had highlighted. And so getting that, and I think tapping into potentially some of these college head coaches or these college coaches or some of these younger coaches, he's trying to tap into some of that more, upbeat, aggressive, energetic spirit. We all had talked about when Robert Saleh was interviewed for the job of like, well, what if this is for defensive coordinator? And I think everybody seemed to be pretty on board with the idea of Robert Saleh coming in here and being the defensive coordinator wouldn't be a bad thing. Aaron Whitecotton has coached with Robert Saleh for a number of years. He was with him with the Jets. He had been with him with the 49ers. So he was asked about the biggest thing that he learned from Robert Saleh.
The style of defense is the most important thing. Attacking, great fundamentals. We do all the little things at a high level, very detailed. We may not do a million different defenses, but we do them at a high level. We do them detailed. I think that's the biggest thing is our style of play, our violence, our effort, our passion, how fun we have playing football, and then just being detailed in everything that we're doing. That's critical. And it doesn't matter what team you're with or what your scheme is. That if you don't get those base things done, you ain't got a chance.
What are you asking those guys to do? Are they reading your act? Do you attack? I mean,
we're attack front. So what you've seen from us in San Fran and with the Jets, we're attack front, and I want those guys to play on the other side of the line of scrimmage and get after people and play hard. We want to play hard, great effort, great violence, great passion.
So a lot of the times with Mike Zimmer, you would see defensive linemen, they're asked to read and react. It's different play styles. The San Francisco, the Saleh, D'Amico Ryans, that whole ideology is more about attack front is just break through the line of scrimmage as fast as you can, disrupt everything. Get upfield. Where it can cause some issues, it did with Rod Marinelli at times, was when they would get so far upfield so quickly, it created running lanes for quarterbacks and an era of mobile quarterbacks that allows for bigger gash plays in that sense. But that's why San Francisco, the Jets, they don't blitz. They send 4 guys, and they say, we're going to win with 4 guys. And if you look at consistently, when defensive lines have been had big impact moments in Super Bowls in recent years, like you think of
it's all 4.
What the Giants did against the Patriots, what the Eagles did this year, it's winning with 4. Mm-hmm. And so that's a big
the cheat code.
That is a big fundamental for them. And so they've got to get the right guys in there. And so they're clearly looking at who actually matches up with this style of we've got to get upfield, we've got to attack, because right now, those guys may not be on the defensive line, even some of the guys you have under contract. Mozzie Smith might not be a perfect fit for this. Now, there was some positive things said yesterday about him. In fact, Stephen Jones had said at Senior Bowl that part of what they wanted to hear from Matt Eberflus when they interviewed him was specifically, what are your plans for Mozzie? Like, how are you going to get this out of him? And so that's definitely something that's highlighted. And Eberflus had mentioned yesterday, and like I said, we've got a lot of audio to get through this week, but Eberflus had mentioned yesterday, said he loved Mozzie coming out when he was evaluating him with the Bears. And so he says, I see a skill set that I think I can work with. And honestly, I think that's a skill set that Mozzie has that Rod Marinelli would have really liked, that Rod Marinelli would have really pushed for. And that's where Eberflus really got a lot of his ideology and a lot of his different thoughts. But Aaron Whitecotton, it's clear, they're going to next year. There's not going to be a whole bunch of ridiculous blitzing. Those double A gap blitzes from Zimmer, done. The extra rusher that Quinn would send, occasionally, that's done. This is going to be one of the lower blitzing teams in the NFL next year. And that's why Micah Parsons is going to be on the defensive line in all likelihood, is because that's where they got to get their pressure from.